the West who are condemning US economic sanctions on Iran. They also do point out, though, that when Iran does have spare cash, when it does have millions of dollars to spend, it spends a lot of those dollars on proxy wars in Syria, in Yemen, in Lebanon, in Palestine. Why not use that money at home, they say, on your own people?
Come on, let's be serious here. The United States invaded Afghanistan from across the world. They invaded Iraq. They and their allies spent tens of billions of dollars destroying Syria, supporting extremists. You know that as well as I. You know about the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency document of 2012, and you had an interview with General Michael Flynn, who was the head of that.
I'm not here to re-argue the Syrian war. I'm asking, why not spend that money at home when you're saying that you're being crippled by U.S. sanctions? When you do have money, you spend it on military support for the Assad regime or the Houthi rebels or whatever it is.
You know that's nonsense. Iran spends money at home, and that's why Western countries have failed in the fight against the coronavirus, and we see the catastrophe taking place in the United States and Europe. And despite the sanctions, we've done much better. And we wouldn't have been in Syria.
Across the world, but
we would not have been in Syria. Iran
and spends hundreds of dollars.
Let me respond. Yes, let me respond. If Iran hadn't entered Syria in 2013, the black flags would have been over Damascus as we speak right now. In Iraq, if Iran wasn't there to defend Baghdad, the city would have collapsed in the face of the same ISIS that the United States and regional countries, which you know quite well, allowed them to rise. And then we would have to fight. And
Mohammed Merendí, we've discussed these conflicts on the show many times before. I'm not here to re-argue Iraq or Syria, etc. I'm simply pointing out that, as you say, Iran is not a poor country. It does have funds, and it spends a lot of that money abroad. All I'm saying is, why not spend more of that money at home now you're in the middle of a crisis?
No, Iran does spend money at home. But if Iran hadn't prevented the fall of these countries, if Iran hadn't helped these governments and these countries and the people of Syria and Iraq to defend themselves against these extremists, we'd be fighting these extremists in Iran, and we'd have to pay a much greater price a day just to create stability in this country. Okay. So actually, if you want Iran to spend more money on its own people, then stop intervening in countries like Iraq. Stop intervening and destroying Libya, Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen.
Isn't the problem that for a long time, Iran has blamed the US for a lot of things, and on issues like the sanctions, they have a good argument? Yet a lot of the Iranian people are getting fed up with that answer as a justification for all of Iran's problems. Earlier this year, Iran, for example, blamed the US when the Revolutionary Guard shot down that Ukrainian civilian airline and tried to cover it up. Now it's the coronavirus. And again, you have Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader, suggesting the US government might be behind the pandemic, seeming to endorse irresponsible conspiracy theories in a live address to the nation just a few days ago.
Nonsense, Mehdi, nonsense. There was no cover-up about the plane, and I think that's really disturbing that when the U.S. president threatens our country and threatens to obliterate it, he said that specifically, and threatens to strike cultural sites, the Iranian air defense was waiting for an American strike. It was tragic, but the blame lies on the Americans for threatening our country. With regards to conspiracy theories, Senator Cotton was the first person to talk about this. The Iranian leader never said that the Americans carried it out. The Chinese made a counterclaim, and the Iranians said, well, if the Americans can make the claims, then so can the Chinese. Let's hear them out.
Do you believe that the coronavirus is a U.S. chemical
attacks
weapon being used against Iran, as Ayatollah Khamenei seems to suggest?
No, I've never said such a thing. He never said such a thing. He never said. He said that.
Why did he
basically said
that it might be?
Why did Senator Cotton say that the Chinese did it? Why did the Chinese government say the Americans were involved? Let's hear the evidence. That's their problem. When you go and speak of conspiracy theories that Iran was hiding this and Iran was hiding that, then the Chinese make these claims. Your claims are no more legitimate than Chinese claims simply because you live in the United States. The Chinese have made a claim. Let the Americans respond.
In a live address to the nation, it's a bit irresponsible to do that, no?
I don't know what was the origin of this virus, but I know that the regime in Washington has been using it as a weapon against Iranian. Don't blame the victim. That's ugly.